Good morning everybody and a buona dimineața. A couple of weeks ago I received a message on Instagram from Gerlinde and she asked me, "Hi Peter, could you tell something about the Orton effect in one of your vlogs?" Well Gerlinde, today is your day. We are talking about the Orton effect. What it is, how I apply it and what are things to look out for when using the Orton effect. So 3 basic steps, let's jump into it. Number 1. What is the Orton effect actually? Well, the Orton effect, for those of you who don't know, is an effect you use on your photos which makes the image more hazy, dreamy, glowy and more etheric, more fairy tale like. And it's a technique that's been made up by or thought up by Michael Orton back in the 80s. That's why it's called the Orton effect. And what he used to do is to take one slide of film and then add another slide on top of it which was overexposed and blurry, and he would put those on top of each other and to get this ethereal, hazy fairy tale feel. And it's something we can use in landscape photography very well as well. It really makes your photos, it gives a specific vibe to your photos, and I quite like to use it in some cases. It's not always useful to use it. It can be used too much and it gets ugly very quickly. We'll get into that a bit later. But when used in the right way, it can be a really nice effect to your photos. So the next step is, how do you add the Orton effect to your photos? Well, this is something you have to do in Photoshop. You can't do this in Lightroom, so you will have to have Photoshop. But I will show you a quite easy way to do it in Photoshop, hopefully, that in a way that you can do it as well. So let's hop into Photoshop. Let's show you the photo we're working on and let's show you how I do this. This is the photo we're going to look at. This is the photo I shot last week with those 3 trees, which I hope are quite balanced in this photo. There's one tree on the left, which I find a bit distracting, but maybe if I stepped more to the left, I could have solved it, but now I like the distance between the trees. But we're not here to talk about the composition or anything. We're talking about the Orton effect. And I think it will work for this photo because there are some strong subjects in the photo. You have these trees, which are quite wide as well. And it gives the haziness something to stick to, let's say. If you just have a almost completely white scene, you can't see that haziness. You need some contrast in color and in brightness. So here we have bright background and a darker foreground with those trees. And at those edges, you're going to be able to see that haziness that we bring in with the Orton effect. Now, I did already pre-edit this in Lightroom. The Orton effect is something you're going to do at the very last of your editing. You don't want to do anything after that anymore because it's quite a semi-destructive way of applying something. So what I did to this photo is I added some texture to the foreground and I made it a bit more bluish because I like it in this photo. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to merge all these layers together into a new layer first. So we're going to press Command Option Shift E, or that's Control Alt Shift E on your Windows laptop, to make a new layer with all the visible layers merged together. What we're going to do with this is make an Orton effect almost the original way. We're going to add a lot of contrast to it and then we're going to make it blurry. And then we'll blend it into the photo. You can also use vibrance on this as well to let the colors pop a bit more. But in this photo, there's barely any color. It's almost black and white. So we're only going to use the highlights, the contrast and the blurriness in this case. How we do that is that we go to Image, Adjustments. I like to use the levels in this case. And we're just going to slide the highlights to the left to make them brighter and the shadows more to the right to make them darker. Now you want this to be very punchy and very contrasty, and it's going to be ugly. That's okay. That's not an issue. We're going to get to that later. So make this strong, make the darks dark and the lights light. Okay, I think this is fine for now. Then we're going to press OK. Next up, we're going to go to Filter, Blur and Gaussian Blur. Now I want the blur to be in a way that I can still kind of see what's going on, but that it's still pretty blurry. Fine for my camera, it's about 20 is generally good. And this is something you can play around with and just try it out how much you want. So now we're going to press OK. And now we have this weird layer on top of it. Now, especially when you're working with a lot of vibrance in this as well, now we get to the most important part of the Orton effect. And that is to stop for a moment. You're gonna first, too quick, first you're gonna pull the opacity all the way to the left, you're gonna turn it off, and our image is gonna look completely bland, boring, and flat. So this is the time to step back, relax, have a cup of tea, zoom out, click subscribe, click like, go follow me on my Instagram channel. And then we're gonna jump back into the photo. Because what we're gonna do now is slowly bring in the photo. We're gonna pull up the opacity. So we're gonna see that blend a bit more and we're gonna see that haziness. And this is where it gets dangerous. So you don't wanna go overboard with this effect. Here at 24, I'm starting to see it quite well. It's looking pretty good. But if we go a bit too far, say like 50%, this is where it gets ugly. This is where the Orton effect gets its bad reputation from. The Orton effect is sometimes seen as a bit, it's not good because you can really go overboard with it. And you get these photos which are way too dreamy. It's not what you want. So we're gonna bring it back down, and it really depends on the amount of contrast you brought in with the levels adjustment and the blurriness you brought in with that effect, with that filter. And actually what you want to do is make it so you just don't really see it, because the next time you're gonna look at it, you will see it. Trust me. So I'm just gonna bring it back down to like 14 in this case. I'm gonna click it on and off and you can see that difference that it brings, right? It makes everything a bit softer, a bit more hazy, especially in the background. And the trees pop a bit more because we gave them a bit more contrast. Okay, and then you're gonna step back again for the second time because it's gonna look good at this moment. But now we're gonna step back, we're gonna do something different for a moment, look out of the window or something, touch your plants or whatever, do something, look away from the photo. And now it's time to look back at it again. And now you can see that even 16% is too much still for me. So I'm even gonna pull it down a bit further. So just really don't go overboard with this. You don't want to have too much Orton effect on your photo. It really gets ugly. But when not to use the Orton effect? Well, let's have a look at one of the other photos I took. It's the one where I tried to get creative in photographing those snowflakes. And here we don't really have a strong subject in this photo. There's these flakes which are barely visible, and then there's some blurry background. Now let's add the Orton effect. We've made a new layer. We're gonna go to image adjustments. We're gonna pull those levels. And we're gonna make it contrasty again, a bit like this or something. Then I want to add some more blur to it. I'm losing all the snowflakes with this blur as well, which are the subject actually. And we're gonna pull it down, look away for a bit. Okay, we're gonna pull it in slowly. You can't really see much happening, right? Just makes the background a bit darker. But other than that, nothing really happens. So you do need that strong subject. In this case, it's one tree in a white background. You need some sort of contrast, which that Orton effect can make stronger, and in which you can get that dreaminess. I think that's it actually. We talked about the Orton effect, what it is, making this dreamy, glowy feel to your photo, how to do it in Photoshop, and look out, don't put too much on it. Look away from your screen for a bit before you apply it. And then even look away again and see if you actually did it correctly. Because it's so easy to overdo that Orton effect. And only use it when you have some good subjects in your photo. If there's too much just brightness or something in your photo, it's not going to work. So Gerlinde, I hope this answered your question. Now you know how to work with the Orton Effect, or how I work with the Orton Effect. I didn't show you with vibrance this time. Go have a try with that as well. And for all of you other people out there, thank you all for watching too. I hope you learned something. I hope you can do something with it. And I hope to see you next week in another vlog where we're somewhere here in Romania. Hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, check Instagram. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.